Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Today I'm continuing my discussion about police brutality. I read about a couple of cases. In fact, it's about 3 cases that have been in the news lately. Actually, it's more than that, but I'm just going to focus on 3 for this video. The first one is here in Baltimore. Police killed this brother by the name of Freddie Gray. They chased after him, they apprehended him, and the next thing you know, this brother's back, his spinal cord is severely injured and he's in a coma. And eventually the brother passes away. And if I'm not mistaken, he died today. Well, actually it was yesterday, since today it's about 12 right now. But he died. And apparently our mayor is conducting an investigation, and I commend her for doing so. I wish more mayors would do what she's doing right now. And I hope that this investigation leads to the road of justice, leads to justice. Because that's what we need. We don't need any performances. We don't need any more shows, a mere gesture of concern, a mere appearance of concern. We need justice. And I hope that this brother and his family receive justice. These police haven't even released the real reason why this guy was arrested to begin with. There's some innuendos or talk about drug dealing. But there's no proof, according to the family attorney, that there was any kind of illegal activity going on. And even if that was the case, that shouldn't be a death sentence. No one should be brutalized by the police. No one should die at the hands of these police when they're unarmed and they pose no threat. And it just seems like recently every other day we hear about this. We hear about another black man or black woman being killed by these police. And yesterday, a case against a police officer in Chicago was dismissed. This police officer killed Rekia Boyd, a 22-year-old unarmed woman. This officer claims that he saw someone with a gun. He claims that there was a group of people making some noise, and according to the witness, the officer told them to be quiet or something to that effect. And then this officer claims that somebody was reaching for a gun, so he fired shots into this crowd. And from what I understand, many of the people in the crowd, including Rekia Boyd, had their backs to this officer. So this punk police officer shot this woman in the back of her head, and she's dead. Her life is snuffed out at the age of 22. And this judge went ahead and dismissed the case. He dismissed it in a directed verdict without even, a trial. And this happens every now and then in court. But this is part of a pattern where these police are charged and they basically get off. They basically have a license to kill black people. They can kill us with impunity. All they have to do is come up with a few catchphrases, and then they're given basic immunity, basic impunity to take our lives. All they have to do is say that they fear a black person. They feared that the person had a gun. They thought they had a gun, or they thought the person was reaching for their gun. Those are the kind of things they say. And if that doesn't work, they say, oops, I didn't mean to shoot him. I meant to reach for my taser. And that reminds me of this other case where this officer claims that he thought he was reaching for his taser. And it turns out he reached for his gun and he shot this brother down in the streets like an animal. And as this brother was dying, one of the police officers said something to the effect of F your breath or something like that, because I think the brother was saying he can't breathe or something like that. And I'm trying to get the information about where it occurred. Yeah, so it occurred in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So you had his brother who's dead, snuffed, his life is gone. And this cop is basically saying, oops, I made a mistake. And let's see what happens in that case. Let's see if another police officer gets away with killing a black man. See, eventually the people are going to have enough. The people had enough in Ferguson when they burned that city down. These local civil rights leaders have had enough. You've had 2 civil rights leaders in local communities say that black people need to arm themselves and defend themselves. And these people are being labeled as some kind of radicals or something for just basically espousing common sense. When did it become radical to defend yourself from oppression? They always want the oppressed people to be passive. They always want the oppressed people to be loving in the face of brutality. They always want the oppressed people to be singing and praying in the face of this brutality. Well, some people have had enough, and they're saying it's time for us to defend ourselves. When the United States has problems abroad, they don't pray their way out of it. They don't love their way out of it. They use their military to defend themselves. And often they go beyond defending themselves. They go to the point of just outright taking and seizing what they want, using force, using any means necessary to accomplish their objectives. And yet they want to preach to the oppressed about advocating self-defense. They want a monopoly on violence. That's what they want. They want to define who can defend themselves and who can't. We have a legal right in this country to bear arms. And each and every one of us should exercise that right. We should defend our homes and defend ourselves and defend our families within the confines of the law. Now, when I talk about self-defense, I'm talking about common sense. I'm not talking about someone just attacking a police officer or, committing an illegal act. I'm talking about someone exercising their legal right to bear arms and their legal right to defend themselves. That shouldn't be a radical idea. When those Tea Party lunatics walk around with guns, nobody's calling them radicals. None of these politicians, these right-wing Republicans are calling these people radicals. When they show up to demonstrations against Obama armed, nobody's calling them fanatics. But when black people talk about defending themselves against police brutality, all of a sudden, these black people are radical. These black people are out of line. You have a legal right to bear arms, and we should exercise that right. Now, in terms of dealing with these police, in our communities, we teach our young people about how to deal with the police many times. But we need to reinforce a lot of those ideas. Number one, we need to not run from the police. Because all that does is give them an excuse to do something. even though they don't have a legal right to kill somebody simply for fleeing, they often do. When people are running, they end up dead at the hands of these stinking cops. So my advice to people is not to run from these pigs. You know, my advice is not to be argumentative with these people, with these so-called police officers. And on my channel, I posted a video from the Roland Martin show, and I encourage you all to check it out. On that show, they had 3 attorneys talking about how people should deal with the police. I think you all should check that video out, you know, and share it with your friends and family, because it includes like some real crucial advice. And I'm just going to do the short version right now. So, you know, I encourage people not to run from these cops. I encourage people not to argue with these cops. I encourage people to keep their hands visible when you deal with these cops. Because the important thing, as was stressed in that Roland Martin video, it's important that you leave the scene alive so you can report, so you can live to complain. And if possible, you should record any incident of police brutality. Anytime you're stopped by these police, you should cut on your cell phone, your video footage, and document it. You have a legal right to do so as long as you're not interfering with these police in their duties. So if you see someone on the street stopped by these police, record it. Because that is how we are shining a light on the injustice that exists in this society. All that is happening now is we're documenting what has occurred historically in our community without such documentation, without such technology. You know, these things happened all the time. We just weren't there to record it. We just didn't have the technology to record the way we do today. Something really has to be done about this police brutality problem. And despite measures to act in a way to not provoke these pigs, even if you're trying to do everything the right way, they can still manage to find a way to brutalize you. They can find an excuse to brutalize you. So there's really no 100% safeguard against these police. We've seen them plant evidence on people, beat people, brutalize people, and then when in the few cases where they're brought to trial, they end up getting off. Something has to be done. And I'm here to say, like, if things don't improve, Ferguson, you know, to like borrow from Rap Brown, is just a dress rehearsal for what's to come around this country. Because the people are fed up, they had enough, and they're not putting it up with it anymore. Anytime you have respected civil rights leaders talking about self-defense, you know there's a problem. And before I go, I left out one point about interacting with these police. It's very important that you never touch a police officer, that you never resist arrest. That is crucial, because the minute you lay your hands on a police officer, they can use that as a basis for justifying your execution. So don't ever touch these cops. Again, it's important to live so that you can report the problem. Peace.